It's time for Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCare. The Chicago Fire with the Wednesday game against Montreal. Then they are home against Toronto FC, the top team not only in the Eastern Conference, but in all of Major League Soccer. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, and Frank Lopez as we start discussing TFC. And not only Toronto coming to town, and obviously a big game. It would be obviously be a big win, but also a team building confidence game. I mean, you go into a game like this and you knock off Toronto at home in front of a full house, that could be tremendous going forward.
Well, for sure, and you want to be playing games like this towards the end of the season, because this is as close as you're going to get to a playoff atmosphere. You know, and for me, I think from a fan standpoint, I mean, this is a game, I mean, we often say this is a game you can't miss, but this is a game you can't miss. You look at the quality of players that they have, you look at the way that they're playing, you look at this Fire team, and, you know, you have some world-class players that are going to be there, and you're right. I mean, it's a game that can kind of set the tone, you know, with a good performance. And the Fire have played this Toronto team in the past extremely well, so I'm looking forward to this match.
That's what I was just about to say. Is it's kind of a weird thing. Even last year when the Fire were down and Toronto was up, they had a couple really good games against Toronto. They kept it tight. They made it difficult for them in moments. I remember the game that I stepped in for you in the booth in Toronto. They allowed Jovinko a little bit of room on top of the box in the first half. Of course, he punished them for it. But that was the one big mistake in that game. And coming back home last year, I remember how frustrated Michael Bradley was after the game, just how difficult Chicago made it on TFC. So there are some areas where they match up well, and now look, they've improved, right? I mean, Dax McCarty, Bastian Schweinsteiger in midfield, Nemanja Nikolic up top. It changes the way this team functions. But I think especially in central midfield, when you talk about Victor Vasquez and Michael Bradley, you need Dax and Schweinsteiger to have a big game.
No, I agree with you, Paul. But I think for me, I think in this game like this, I think the midfield of the Fire is going to be key. And I think the team as a whole, and I say the midfield because I think it's important that the team does not get stretched out, and it's important for those midfield players, whoever are there, first of all, to stay compact and cut off passing lanes, you know, to the forwards' feet, whether it's Altidore, whether it's Jovinko, whether it's Vasquez coming inside, Delgado, and then obviously pick up anytime that Jovinko likes to come in between those gaps, between the lines to find space. That's why he's so dangerous, you know. He's not a guy that stays up. He's always moving. I think it's very important for those two central midfielders really to be very aware. When he gets it, to come from a position from the back, to double team him, deny him that kind of space. You got to make it difficult on Michael Bradley. And obviously, I think for me, I think both outside backs, you have to do a very good job on their wing backs, whether it's Morrow on one side, whether it's Hessler right now, the new signing that's been playing. You know, I think if you're able to defend the wide areas 1v1, I think they can free your wide players not to have to come back and double team, and then, you know, it's 3v3 maybe the other way in transition.
I was going to say that to me is the key for the Fire against this team. Transition against Toronto FC. We saw the goal they just showed now of Akam scoring against Toronto in the loss earlier this year. That's a goal that happens in transition.
Bravo.
When you play with wingbacks and you play that 3-5-2, however, 3-4-3, whatever you want to call it, and they're up the field, that does allow you to have space in transition if you are quick in turning and getting the ball up the field. If you make a mistake in the middle of the park, it's easy to punish them. I think the Fire have to be ready to pounce in those moments of transition. But just like we saw against Columbus, when they're playing three in the back with some wing backs in a 3-4-3, you cannot give the ball away in the middle of the field. Because the way the Fire played against Columbus, they pushed their fullbacks up to mark those wing backs 1v1, and it allowed there to be space. So if you lose the ball in the middle of the field, now that space is there and you're in trouble. So I think you're going to have to be very clean on the ball. And like you said with Michael Bradley, I know, and we've both had conversations with people who went into a game and said, we're going to man mark Michael Bradley and try to prevent him from being the player that dictates this game from a deep position. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Fire take a similar tact and have Michael DeLue try to be a little bit of a nuisance to Michael Bradley during the game.
I agree with you. And I saw early game Kansas City playing on the road in Toronto, where Dwyer at that time basically without the ball, you see it. And then I talked to Peter Vermes afterwards. I mean, their whole game plan was for Dwyer really to disrupt the rhythm of play. Don't let Bradley have any time on the ball where he can get the rhythm of the team, because once he gets the ball, that frees up the wing backs to push up even higher. You know, and then maybe sometimes it's okay where he receives it, they're high up the field and you can go. But they did a very good job taking him out of the play, because even though their wing backs are good, their strength is still centrally with Vasquez, Delgado, when they're able to combine, when they're able to find Jovinko in areas in between those lines. And then obviously you have a guy like Altidore, very athletic and pace to get behind.
Well, and with the midfield the Chicago Fire has with McCarty and also with Bastian Schweinsteiger, we talked earlier, throughout the year we talked about possession. Possession's one thing, possession with, with some idea of where you're going to go. We saw McCarty with a great pass from the first goal to DeLu, okay? And we've seen that. I think that's one of the few things we've seen. We've missed some of that over the last several weeks. We saw it there. We need to see a lot more of it this week.
You know what? The start of the second half in Columbus for 10 minutes, they had Columbus pinned in, because they had control of the game. They had the ball. It's just that at moments then when it was on, their ability, their speed of play to be quicker, and then when the deliveries were coming in, I just felt that the runs that were made before weren't made at this time. There was a lot of standing around, and it was easier for Columbus to be first at the ball and clear a lot of the danger away.
I think there's a little bit of confusion sometimes with this team on how they want to score goals, and they're going to have to sort that going forward.